Hey, what's up, guys? Infusions Cap here. Gonna do a quick video on the modified monthly tournament for May. A couple of shout outs. Shout outs to Pui for hosting the event. Thank you for doing that. Shout outs to Soul for winning. Good job, man. Pretty small tournament. We're really trying to grow this community. There's going to be a link in the description to the Go Format Discord. If you guys are interested in playing some modified, definitely get in there, check it out, join the conversation, and just come and be a part of it in the June tournament. The June tournament is going to be with the new ban list. That ban list is not out yet. We don't know it. We will find it out the same time as everybody else, and we'll probably put out a video talking about some of the changes that we're excited for, which decks we think are going to get better, which decks we think are going to get worse, all that. So let's jump right into it. We'll take a quick look at the deck list that I played, and then we will take a look at the 3 replays from the event. Alright, so this is the deck that I used in the event. It's basically as much of a turbo deck as you could legally play. Obviously not Assailants at 1, so we're subbing in a copy of Mask of Darkness. They don't really do the same thing, but I think that Mask is decently solid as a one of. Got a lot of stuff here that's worth recycling in the trap section, and it actually gets better post board. We'll come back to the sideboard later. One of the problems that I ran into when trying to play turbo in previous events was that I just didn't have enough ways to push damage, especially if I was going to play the upstarts. So what I settled on to kind of solve that problem was DD Warrior Lady, Asura Priest, and Kaiku. You can make the argument for just maining the second Kaiku and siding the Asura because it's really only great against Scapegoat decks and maybe Battle Searcher decks. But I wanted to have another light just to try to make sure I could, have the Sorcerer be live whenever I did actually find it. One of the more interesting choices here is the Double Book of Moon. That's definitely not standard for a turbo style list. This was sort of a meta call. I know that control decks are a lot more popular in this format, and this is a pretty solid answer to Thousand Eyes. In recent tournaments, we had also seen last turn decks actually pop up, and this is a way to sort of book the Jowgen and laugh if they go for their combo without clearing the back row first. Side deck's pretty standard. Couple Zombiris to go over the top. Second Kaiku that can flex in. Double Moncon's obvious. The Walks are obviously for burn. Solemns are there. I really just have them there to bring in against other decks with Solemn. I'm not planning to bring them in preemptively. It's literally just to have a way to Solemn Solemns. Saku's for the aggro, and a couple of Dust Tornadoes. These are obviously good against burn or a lot of the combo decks like the last turn that I mentioned. And a lot of this package ends up working out really great with this extra Mask of Darkness. So, pretty standard deck. Just try to draw a lot of cards. Got a couple of, mid-range beaters in here to help be a little more aggressive so that, my normal summon isn't always relegated to just set a monster and hope to resolve a flip. Yeah. So it's got a little bit of something for everything, and we'll end up getting into the games here. Okay, so here we are. This is round 1. My first game is against Alderoth. And we end up losing the RPS. Pretty decent hand, though. We've got a good amount of draw power, and we've got one single copy of Thunder, which is exactly where you want to be. And we pick up Graceful, so that's just awesome. He did open pot, but we're going to have this Thunder Dragon Graceful to kind of even the playing field and make up for the fact that we went second. We hit mostly draw power off of it. Our opponent summoned Flying Kamakiri, so immediately I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're playing Ultimate Insect. So we're just going to set the Deco and the couple of Jar of Greeds here and see if maybe we can get a heavy storm out of his hand or something. He's going to swing in. We pick up another draw. He sets another card. We're actually pretty happy to see that because now we've got an upstart plus 2 jars plus our draw phase to maybe find our own heavy storm and get a pretty big swing here. We've already got a knock to deal with the face down. And we pick up Book of Moon. So we're just going to dig a little bit here. And we don't find exactly what we were looking for, but we have quite a few options with this hand. I decide I'm just going to knock this first, and I see the Slate Warrior, and immediately I'm thinking, oh no, it's Wind Return. So I'm just going to play a little bit defensively here and try to dig for some more options. And he's going to give up the Kamakiri to drop the Ultimate Insect. And here I decide to book because I can flip this deco and try to just take it out in battle. And if that fails, I have another Nobleman. So we go for that. And we end up picking up Sangin. Pretty solid. This gives us a chance to summon the Sangin out and have 2 attackers to answer the insect. That way, if he was trying to, just maybe take the deco out with a Saku, we'll have a backup. And if he mirror forces, we're not going to lose that much, and we still have the Nobleman to fall back on. So that is going to get through. But unfortunately, he has Call. And that's going to kind of force our hand to go ahead and get that out of there with the Sorcerer. Alright, so here he drops Garuda. And Snatch still comes in and takes the Sorcerer and eats the Sangin. And now I see this Bazoo. And between the Garuda and the Bazoo, now I'm just positive, okay, this is a return deck. So we're going to take some damage here. Get most of it back thanks to the Snatch Still effect. So we're going to try to snatch back, and he's got the Ring. And that's a little unfortunate. So Tribe is really awkward here because these are different tags. So I would have to give up 2 cards from my hand, and I don't particularly want to give up anything that I have. I mean, maybe the Mask. But I really want to try to resolve one of these Faiths and see if I can dig a little bit more. And I'm looking at it, and he already has, this big 23 and all 3 19s. So if his face down is return, we're probably already dead. So I kind of play under the assumption that it isn't there. Because if it is there, there's nothing I can really do to stop it anyway. So we're going to go ahead and get a Graceful. And 16 gets through. Alright, we pick up a Sura Priest. That's a pretty nice draw for clearing out what he has. But he does have a lot of backfield. So we're going to dig. And we hit 3 really good cards. Our discards here, the Mask is definitely correct. And I think the other one should be Tribe. Okay, it looks like Past Me agrees. And we're going to go ahead and fire off this Heavy Storm and just see what he's working with. And yeah, we were about to have a really bad time. So now the Sasura gets to come down and just eat. Alright, he's going to Rhoda, and he picks up Sasuke, which makes sense, because that's, something that the Asura Priest can't beat. We're going to go ahead and Mirror Force here and save the Regeki break, because it's just a bit more versatile. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and break after drawing that Kaiku. But I decided to just set him off, and in hindsight I probably should have just summoned the Kaiku and started pushing. Otherwise, if I'm just going to set them off, I could hold the break. The preemptive break is really just in case it's second return. So maybe I did have to get that out of there, but if I'm going to go that route, I think it would have been better to just summon the Kaiku and start trying to push some damage. So I end up summoning it now, and it gets met with Magic Cylinder. It's a big chunk of life that we didn't really have to lose. Alright, Breaker is a pretty solid draw here. Pick up MST, that's even better, and I figure, okay, now's the time to full send. We can get this book as a nice, coverage answer to anything and just push some damage. Now there's no one single card he can draw to win that turn, and he ends up bricking, so we get away with that. So going into game 2, our hand's not as good as it was in the first one, but still okay. We do have a couple of upstarts here to dig a little bit. We go ahead and fire off this nobleman, and the reason I did that instead of just setting Sangan Torrential is because I didn't want to set my Sangan into a situation where he has nobleman. Especially if he has like clear backfield nobleman, I'm kind of just toast. I want to be able to turn this R break on with the Sinister that I plan to get off of the Sangan. So this is the best way to kind of protect that and see if I can get him to just summon something to attack over it, and then we'll torrential that. And that is what happens with the Spear Dragon here. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off this TT. There is an argument for just letting the Spear Dragon kill this and then, summon and try to attack over, but if he has a way to protect it, I'm just taking more damage than I have to, and neither of these monsters that I currently have are something that I would want to normal summon and do that with. I would have to use the Sinister that I'm getting to do that, and then the Sinister's not in my hand to feed the Regeki break, so it's just really awkward. So we're just going to set Deco in the break. We've got a good discard target for it now. My opponent kind of misclicks there, and I get a glimpse of what that is. But it's a pretty low stakes tournament, so I tried to kind of take the high road here and play as if I didn't really know what that was. I just take this damage. This is our only defensive card, and I don't want to, kind of waste it off right now. There's a good chance I'm going to need to resolve one of these flips, and he's playing Roto, so he could have Mystic level 2 or Sasuke Samurai, since he's on this wind package. So we need ways to actually get these flips to go off. Right, so here I'm going to go ahead and do it. Force this out. And then the insect is going to come down, and I'm going to be able to get the break back. So he is kind of misclicking left and right and giving me a lot of information. So we're going to go ahead and use this heavy and set them off with plans to maybe get him to overcommit to the board, and then we'll have a second heavy storm. It doesn't quite go that way. We're going to go ahead and break this. I just don't want to deal with the Battle Searcher, and I don't want to have to give up my Warrior Lady to remove it. And I have to be very careful about what I'm removing anyway, because I know he's on return. But I want this Warrior Lady to come down and start pushing damage. And I kind of get pinched for it here. He's got the Snatch Steal, so he's going to get a big cleanup on us. So here I'm just thinking, 4 to 4 in resource count. but one of mine is a Sinister, so it's, it doesn't really count. I'm behind. I'm behind in life. Um, I just want to start pushing damage. You never want to give return decks more time than you have to. So we do pick up a decent bit of information here. He tosses this ultimate level 7 to the tribe. And Suki comes out just in time. Alright, so he goes with the set. And I decide, okay, let's go ahead and get it out of there. And it is the Sasuke Samurai. And I set this Night Assailant. Hopefully he'll, T-set or something, and I can try to blow him out and reuse the Night Assailant. But he has knock, and he summons this Morphing Jar. And I think here for a second, I wonder if this is some kind of bait where he showed the Morphing Jar so that I would overset and get blown out by Heavy Storm. And then this ends up being something completely different. But I think about it a little bit longer and I say, well, no, his resource count's pretty low, so I just operate under the assumption that it is the Morphing Jar. And I look to preserve what I can. And it does end up being the jar. And we pick up a pretty solid hand here off of this. But his set ends up being return. So he uses the Lady Ninja Ye's effect. We're going to go ahead and chain and try to protect our Tsukiyomi by taking out the Sasuke. And the heavy goes back. So this effect is discard a wind, and it's a one-sided giant Trunade. But he has the premature for the Sasuke. And he summons the insect. And beats down. And when I see him set those two cards, I'm like, okay, it's probably over. There's a good chance one of those is ring. So I'm really hoping to find my other copy of Book of Moon. And then I kind of go brain dead here for a second and think, oh no, it doesn't actually matter. But it does, and you'll see what I mean. So I go to heavy. He uses ring, targets the insect, and for some reason I had it worked out in my head that the premature was on the ultimate insect. It's not, it's on the Sasuke. So when I go to do this, I think I'm preventing the ring damage, but I'm actually not. Unfortunately, there was nothing else I could really do about it. I guess technically I could have played the pot first and then, hoped that he didn't just chain the ring. But yeah, I thought I had an out there, but I didn't. My only out was to find the other Book of Moon. That's okay. We go first in this game. Our hand is pretty garbage. Instead of leading out with the Torrential, I want to kind of keep the Torrential Mirror Force combo to try to get a little more value out of it later. After having just lost a return, maybe that was a little bit of tilt and I should have just led with the Torrential Sangan here. But we go with the R break, and the idea is the Sangan will die and we'll go get something to push back with, and we've already got the Sinister. So this could pick up like DD or something. And since we already have the Sinister, if it gets knocked, we're not as worried about it this time compared to the last game. And Dueling Book kind of has a moment here. Alright, so he's got the Heavy Storm. Pot Graceful Heavy on turn 1. Alright, so Sangan still gets to resolve through the Sasuke. I opt to go with Tsukiyomi. And I think the thought behind this was, he's playing a number of things that this will just kind of take out if they stick to the board. DD would have been a fine choice as well. So we just go for the poke here. We get that, and now we can set the torrential. So he's going to activate Rhoda. Yep, there's Ninja Grandmaster. He summons, and the torrential is going to clean that up. Alright, so here we pick up Kaiku. And for whatever reason, I decide to set Night Assailant and Mirror Force. And this is kind of the point where it all went off the rails for me. This was actually a huge mistake on my part. What I should have done is summon the Kaiku. I could have attempted to poke for 18 and remove the Sasuke, or if I'm afraid of Saku, which I'm not really, I didn't expect Saku's to be coming in against me, I could just summon it and pass. The reason that would have been better is because if he has like Bazoo return here, I'm pretty dead. Because say he answers this Mirror Force and he drops Bazoo and removes all 3 of his monsters and activates return, the Sasuke is going to kill this Night Assailant before it has an opportunity to blow up something else. And my entire position just kind of gets shattered. The Kaiku would have prevented Bazoo from activating. It would have prevented him from dropping Garuda. Since I had the Mirror Force to protect it, I mean, Summon Kaiku was going to be a whole lot better than what ends up happening here. And when I see him dust and then set off of the dust, I know the game is already over. That's definitely return. And there's the Bazoo. And I'm just completely punished for playing too passively. So, in hindsight, I can look at it and say, don't give return too much time. But in the moment, after you've already lost to it once, you don't want to lose to it again, and you think defend, and it's not always enough to do that. Sometimes you just have to be proactive. So, yeah, a little unfortunate. We end up dropping that. Both games that we lost were, to the return OTKs, and I mean, look how many monsters I've got this time. So it happens, but you pick the pieces up and you move on, and we'll head on to game 2 here. Alright, so here's round 2 against Bakara. We get to go first this time. Opening hand's okay. We got the Sing and Torrential combo again. I decided to just set it this time. He gets pot. And we're just going to kind of play slow, try to get some value out of this TT. Fires off an upstart, and he sacks for blowback. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Torrential here. He doesn't get his window for priority because Sangan is interrupting it. We top into Thunder. And we're just going to go ahead and set this Magician. And he's got Graceful, so he's definitely outdrawing us at the moment. Solex comes in with Thestalos, and luckily he hits one of the Thunders. So we had a 50% chance of it hitting something we didn't really care about. And we're going to go ahead and pick off the new card. So here there's a couple of things I could do. I decide to just go ahead and get the Sorcerer down and try to remove the Thestalos. And then I'm going to protect it against Snatch Steal with the Suki. I also could have just snatched and attacked and then put it down with Suki. Snatch, Suki it down, flip it up. I felt like this played around Mirror Force and Snatch Steal the best. And if he knocks the Sorcerer, it's obviously not good, but not the end of the world. So we're going to go ahead and go for this line here. Use the bluff knock. And then bluff with a new knock. We pick up a jar. It's not too bad. Suki comes down, and we're just going to keep this going. We are playing it a little bit slow here, but I really don't want him to snatch that sorcerer. Alright, so here we pick up Breaker. We're going to go ahead and jar, upstart. And we pick up a break, so I decide, okay, now it's time to start trying to push in here. We hit the new set, and it's obviously Mirror Force. This has been down for a while. So I'm operating under the assumption that it isn't real. It is real, but not removal. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And get one of those out of the way. He's going to go for the plus here, and I decided to just let this happen. And the reason I don't use the Regeki break on the Tsukiyomi is because if he has Metamorphosis to follow up, I need an answer to the restrict. Otherwise, I'm just losing a ton of value. I do have Snatch Steal plus Tsukiyomi to take his restrict and start using it against him, but I think it's better to just kind of preserve what I have and then adapt later. Okay, so here I pick up Heavy Storm. And I can go for this line again. Now he has a Saku to take me off of the Tsukiyomi finally. But Sorcerer's going to do a good job of cleaning up these tokens either way. Go ahead and upstart, and we hit an upstart chain. It's not really where you want to be. Now we get a Sura. It's a little bit later than I would have liked to have seen it. But that's okay. He's going to go ahead and book here. And we're just going to shift gears. And this way we still have this break. Unfortunately, he has Genzo. And then he goes ahead and uses the Heavy Storm. I don't know if he really needed to use the Heavy there. But that's okay, because now we're going to try to take over the game. And pretty big damage push here. We've got a book. Book of Moon's one of those cards where you just always feel so safe when you have it. Okay, so I read that as being the Sinister again, and it is, and he's just trying to kind of stabilize here and get some resources back. And we're just going to keep the pressure on as much as we can without overextending. He opts to put the Asura down, which I think is kind of interesting. I guess he knows he's not dead yet, and he wants to get the 1,000 back off of Snatch Steal before he kind of mounts his counterattack. So he goes with the Premature. We didn't set this MST because I didn't want to just overload the backfield. Okay, so now he's going to try to break the Snatch Steal with the blowback. And we're just going to put the Genzo down to prevent him from getting it back. Obviously, the blowback can just attack over the Genzo. And here he's going to try to pick up a plus by tributing and getting this effect off. But he does whiff it. So he has to just answer the Genzo. Unfortunately, we don't pick up anything to answer the blowback immediately. But we do have Night Assailant Mirror Force. And he can't target both of those. So we do have an out to it here. He goes after the NA. And he is going to get it. And he's smart. He decides not to attack here. And he leaves it on me to deal with it. So we do pick up pot. And now we're going to use that MST to clear that out. And we're going to go ahead and book aggressively. And try to clean this up right here. And we do end up getting it. So he opens up with the standard T set. We do get a Thunder Dragon, and we've got double break. So our hand is pretty good. Everything's live. Right, we're going to go ahead and set a break. If he goes for the Tsukiyomi play here, we'll just take it out and take him off of that. Most people don't play more than one, so hopefully we won't have to deal with that. And we draw graceful, which is just nuts with the composition of our hand. And we'll just keep digging. Go ahead and punch in here. I don't want to summon the Asura out. I want to try to get him to use the goats. If we play the Asura out, he just won't use them until he can set up a meta play. And we pick up Mirror Force here. We're going to go ahead and break his face down. Ends up being Deco. So here I decide I just want to try to push the damage, and he did end up slow rolling the Mirror Force there until he could get more value, so good on him. I did walk right into it. Here I'm not going to set the other break. The other two are already gone. I'm just going to go ahead and get the Mirror Force down. The only thing that really punishes this is Breaker, so hopefully he won't have that. And he just goes for a set. And we're going to set, and then we're going to get completely wrecked by this Morphine Jar. We're going to go ahead and use this Raigeki break on the thing that he set to preserve. And unfortunately that is going to kind of bring the game back to a point where he's advantaged. All of our lead that we had amassed is gone. But now he's going to walk into our Mirror Force with the Spirit Reaper, so pretty lucky there. I have this Heavy Storm, but I don't have any way to follow it up, so I'm going to slow play it a little bit here. And we're just going to let that summon happen. I don't think there's any reason to panic TT that. Alright, we're going to draw and hit a Deco. We're going to go ahead and roll over this jar. Couple of things I could do here. I could just set my own Deco, or I could run out the Warrior Lady and try to attack. But I'm looking through here, and it is game 2, and given what he saw game 1, I thought maybe there's a chance that he sided into Mind Control. So I'm going to go ahead and set this Sinister, and maybe, you know, he'll use a Mind Control on it, or if he just summons out, I can Torrential. It's the oldest trick in the book to put something you don't care about in play to get the second monster before you Torrential. And he does summon the Asura, and we're going to go ahead and get the big plus there with the Torrential. He's got Call for Sangan. And this is a really good read on his part, because he hasn't seen Heavy Storm, and he knows how deep into the deck I am. And with the way his field is set up, Heavy Storm is kind of the biggest blowout. So he wants to go ahead and leverage this call where he can get some damage out of it as well. And then if I heavy, he'll still get his Sangan trigger. So I think that's a really good play on his part. Go ahead and take back the Sinister, and we're going to go for it. This also sets up his ability to get some more damage out of this ring instead of just losing it. And we get his Snatch still out this way, so that's really good. So now, looking at his yard, he still has Heavy Storm to consider. But we've got Book plus Ring here, so we're going to go ahead and get aggressive with the DD and just go for this. Okay, so a couple things I could do here. I think the most logical thing to do is just go ahead and Nobleman and try to push, and then set one of these 3 monsters. Yep, get a little more damage in, and I opt to set the Dekoichi because just getting the extra card draw would be nice, and it has the highest attack stat of all of those, so it sets me up to have a lethal play next turn. But he does have Nobleman for that, so that's going to be all of the decos. And here comes the Heavy Storm. I look at my life total here, and I decide, you know, he could still have Chaos. And if I ring here, there's a good chance that he has chaos plus normal summon, and I just die. So I opt to take the more defensive approach and use the book instead of the ring. And that's kind of why I didn't mind setting those together, even though Heavy Storm was still a consideration, because it really did just leave me more open to decide on the fly what I needed to do. Alright, gonna go ahead and drop the Sangan. He had one Dekoichi still in hand when the Nobleman play happened, so we're just gonna get that 1,000 through. He's gonna hardcast Scapegoat here. And I think that's smart because, again, we're 75% of the way through the deck and he hasn't seen MST. This could easily be MST as far as he's concerned. So he needs to get that wall up. And lo and behold, I do find the MST. We'll take out a couple of those. And here, I'm getting ready to try to close out. He just has the one set. Now the MST comes into play. And I've got the Night Assailant to eat the token and kill the other token, and then I get through for just enough damage to close out round 2. So, good game there. Our opponent made some really good plays. He made some really good reads. The cards just kind of ended up breaking my way. After the Morphing Jar, I kind of thought it was toast, but it ended up working out. So, alright, let's see what happens in round 3. Okay, so here we go with round 3. This is the last round of the tournament. I forgot to choose Classic, so sorry for the ugly board. Alright, opponent opens up Thunder, plus pot, and you guessed it, he's got the full combo on us here, so we're starting out very far behind. We do have Thunder of our own plus pot, so we'll see if we can bring this back to even. We hit an upstart. Okay, so not the greatest hand. We've got a lot of monsters here, but we're certainly not devoid of options. So we're going to go with the tried and true T set to start out. And he's got DD to pressure plus Nobleman, and there goes all the decos for this game. Gonna go ahead and eat the DD with the ring. No reason to take additional damage. Alright, we pick up Breaker. It's kind of a shot in the dark at this point. There's a good chance he has a lot of chainables down, so we're just going to try to get pot back and dig some more. And what do you know? A couple chainables. So he tanks for a minute, and here I assume he's going to break the Magician of Faith. He actually does something a lot sneakier than that and breaks the Sangan. So I end up giving him information, but it's not going to matter because, believe it or not, our opponent is about to kill us. He has the full combo here. Abyss, pitching Abyss to bounce our guy, dropping Sorcerer, Premature for the other Abyss that he threw out, use that Abyss, pitching Sinister to Premature, and Premature Tribe. So he just has a massive amount of damage out of nowhere. So yeah, he tanked for a while and kind of calculated how much he was going to have, and it was definitely more than enough. We were only at 55 already. So not really a great way to start, but we're on the play this time. We're going to try to dig back into this. Luckily, no double Thunder openings so far in this run. And he gets it again as well, but he does not have any additional draw at the moment, so we've got a chance to kind of get something going here. So we're going to flip up, take out his DD, and poke. And I decide to not do anything else here. I didn't want to summon the Asura, because it's too easy to walk into Mirror Force or something. And he's got Tribe with Sinister, so he gets to clear that. And I flip the jar and I end up finding Graceful, so kind of get bailed out here. And now we're back in it. And here I'm going to go for the Kaiku. This is probably not going to walk. There's a good chance he has something to stop this, but with the Sinister sitting in there, it's just too juicy of an opportunity to not go for. He does end up using the break. That's okay. Got to get it out somehow. And he has a dust for our break, so we're kind of wide open here. Just going to take some damage. And he has a T-set. So we're going to go ahead and knock. It is the Sinister. I was kind of thinking it probably would be. So now we're just going to slow down a little bit. I don't want to just give up my normal summon for the Asura to attack over, and then, you know, if he has something new, I'm in trouble. I would rather just wait. I do have the Snatch Steal. I can't use my own tribe, so we're just going to try to get some additional cards going here, and we do end up resolving that. So now this is going to go off, and we find Pot, and here I decide I'm just going to throw the tribe. I've got a couple of other beaters, and I've got the Snatch Steal. Since I don't have Sinister, I feel like I'm not really going to need this tribe. Yep, so now we can pick that off. And I go with the jar and the break. I don't really feel like I need the torrential in this position. So I just hold it. It may end up being something that gets discarded to the break. Alright, so we pick up Sorcerer here. No reason to really deploy that right now. I go ahead and set in main phase 1, which I don't normally do just because my last two opponents had Morphing Jars, so, you know, maybe this guy does too. But that ends up being Sangan. That's okay. He's going to go get exiled. And he's going to space the Torrential. That's okay. Probably wasn't going to be using that. And I would rather him hit that than the break, in all honesty. Alright, so he's going to exile off the Kaiku. And then he's going to play Warrior Returning Alive and get the exiled back. Right, so here I pick up Book of Moon. So we're going to flip this to Deco and see what we can get. We get Heavy Storm. That's pretty sweet. I go for this attack over. We do end up getting the plus in battle. And here I'm just kind of padding my lead. I'm fine with him taking those 1-for-1s like that. That's going to take out the Moths. And he only banished one, and I only banished one. My other one's in the yard. And his other one's in the yard. So unless he is playing 3 and already has 1 in hand, that should be it for the Magicians this game. And he does end up having the Mirror Force there. That's okay. We'll just go grab the Sangan. Or, sorry, grab the Sinister with the Sangan. And when he passes here, I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at. So I go ahead and drop the Sorcerer. I'm going to swing in and drop the Suki to protect it, kind of like I did in the previous round. Because no Snatch Steal has been played yet on his side. So he's going to pick up DDA. Likely just looking to thin his deck. That's why he's going to go ahead and go for that there. And he exiles off the Sorcerer. That's fine. Here we're just going to set the Suki. And the reason I didn't set Sinister is because I wanted to be able to go for this break play. And then I can summon the Sinister and flip the Suki up, put the Sinister down, and get some damage in. So this is kind of an interesting position. He only has 1 set, so kind of the obvious thing to do is just MST that. But I think I actually end up using the Heavy Storm and saving the MST because it can be chained in the end phase. And I also know that I am about to set more cards. So this Heavy is going to be a little bit harder for me to use later. And here we end up getting the end phase MST to stop the Jar of Greed. And now we're pretty far ahead. I know he's on a 2-turn clock here. And I've got this ring, um, but the ring's already been down, so I can actually just use it now. And that's going to close out that one. And then, alright, last game of the run. I ended up bringing in Zombiras to kind of counteract his beaters. I did something kind of strange. I didn't slide my noblemans out for Sakus. I kept the noblemans in. The reason for that is he does have a couple of DD monsters and Sangan that he's setting, whereas like a traditional warrior wouldn't normally do that. Plus, with this double Book of Moon build, it's a little bit easier to still get value out of your noblemans later. And he also has Magician of Face, so I definitely wanted to have something to kind of counteract that. And, you know, lo and behold, I get to stop one of them here. And when I only remove one, he actually pauses for a second here and looks at my graveyard, and I know he's kind of determining that that means I've got another one in my hand. So the Kaiku comes down, and he goes ahead and goes for the TT. And as soon as he did that, I was like, okay, I'm about to get donned. And he played this Rhoda, and I was pretty upset because I was like, I'm going to lose this Graceful. I didn't want to just fire it off in the early game because there was nothing good for me to discard to it. I wanted to try to wait until I found at least Sinister or a Thunder Dragon. So now I'm kind of rolling the dice. But he ends up taking the Suki. Still kind of unfortunate because that's our only one. But what do you do? I top into Pot of Greed, and I get bailed out big time here. I do have the Zombira already that could have answered this Dawn, but I end up drawing into Thunder plus Sinister, and with the Graceful already in hand, that's just the best thing that could have happened to me. Unfortunately, I only find one trap off of that, but I'm going to go ahead and get the Zombira down and use it to clear the Dawn and kind of hold the line as a 19. And he's going to Graceful and pitch the Thunders. And here he's going to go for that. I'm just going to go ahead and convert it and use it up. I was a little concerned when he played Breaker that he might have a Chaos follow-up, which wouldn't be the end of the world because we've got ours to counter it. But then if he has, you know, the dreaded Snatch still behind that, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And he does actually have the Chaos follow-up. We pick up Heavy, and I kind of have to use it here just to make sure that this Chaos drop goes through. And we're going to set the Moth, and the reason I go with the Moth instead of the Deco is because if he does happen to have Snatch Steal, I can just get Heavy Storm to clear it. If he doesn't, I can get Graceful and just try to draw. And this is another really good play from our opponent, actually, assuming he has another out to the Sorcerer, because he knew from the Nobleman earlier in the game that I had one Magician of Faith that I was waiting to deploy. And he definitely sniffed out that this is the time where I would set that, so he takes me off of that. He does not have another counter to the Chaos Sorcerer, so... but I can respect him not wanting to let me get Graceful Charity or Heavy Storm back. We have Deco plus Break here with the Sinister, so pretty safe position. Now we have the Regeki Break that can answer Snatch Steal. But the play is Tribe to clear that out. And I'm going to go ahead and answer the Tribe here because his life is getting down to a point where this game is likely going to end up coming down to a race, and floating this 1400 Deco is actually going to be pretty relevant. And we draw Book of Moon, which is just an awesome draw here. Now we get to poke and set the book. And depending on what he does here, we can respond accordingly. He goes with the DD. So there's no reason to just book that down to stop the attack. We're just going to book our deco and convert that to a costless upstart, basically. And we have this TT, so we're going to see if we can get some extra value out of it here. Just going to take this. We can't set the Sinister because we'll lose it to the DD if he doesn't summon into the Torrential. Here we pick up Break. We're going to jar and see what we get. And yep, set the MST, set the Break. If he summons, we have Torrential. If he doesn't summon, we can just eat the DD with the Regeki Break, and then our Sinister can become a blocker again. He's going to jar. And I'm just on pins and needles at this point because I get blown out so hard by Heavy Storm here. But luckily he doesn't have it. And I'm going to let that Blade Knight summon happen and space in the end phase while neither of these are chainable. I go with the first one that he set. And that's kind of a little mind game that you can work on as you're playing people. Notice as the games are going, the cards that they're setting, what order they're setting them in, if they're doing multiples in a turn, and you can kind of gauge, are they setting the most important thing first, or are they setting the most important thing last? So now the Sinister becomes a blocker. If he summons, we Torrential. If he doesn't, then we're not going to lose any life. So we're just going to let that happen. He sets a couple more. So here I decide to go ahead and set the Sangan, I believe. Yep. And the reason for that is he's probably just going to assume it's Sinister again. If he summons, we still get to Torrential without really losing anything. If he doesn't summon, then we're going to get to thin our deck out and get a relevant monster. So we're going to search up our DD here. Yep, and no reason to deviate from the plan. We pick up the Snatch Steel, so we definitely have a lot of different angles we can approach this endgame with. So now when he goes for this Exiled, we're just going to let that go. We can take a little bit of damage here. Alright, so he goes for the set. Sinister comes back. We jar. We pick up Mirror Force here. And I'm going to go ahead and upstart and just keep thinning. And here I decide, okay, it's time to get a little more aggressive. So I take his Blade Knight and fire off this Nobleman. It ends up being Abyss Soldier. So it looks like maybe he was trying to set up some kind of kill. And it should be disrupted pretty well by this. Alright, so he has Finishing Mirror. And the idea behind this is anybody playing Tsukiyomi or Asura Priest, this is sort of your replacement for Trap Dust Sheet to peek the opponent's hand and then get rid of that Spirit Monster. Luckily, I'm not holding any Spirit Monsters, but he does get a lot of information from this. He already knew I had these cards, but now he knows that this set is not either of these, and he also knows that I have Mirror Force. So he does gain some important information there. So he drops this DDA, and I decide to just let that happen. Let him get that attack over. I'm kind of tired of giving him the 1,000 life points, so not a big deal. We're going to go ahead and flip this deco. We pick up Night Assailant, and Night Assailant's a really good draw here with Tribe in hand. So we get to pitch that and convert it back to Magician of Faith. And then here we get to push. Still no Mirror Force, so there was a little bit of risk associated with this, but I do have Torrential and a Mirror Force of my own. And I go ahead and set the Mirror Force because if he Heavy Storms, he's going to be losing just as much as me, and this game's kind of coming down to the wire. And If I find myself in a position where he heavy storms, I may just be dead that turn anyway. So I think it's better to go ahead and get both of these down and give myself as much options going into his turn as possible. So he rolls over Snatch Steal, and he goes to attack here, and I decided just Mirror Force. I just don't want to take any more damage right now, and I want to utilize these cards before they get blown up by something. So here he summons Abyss, and he passes priority. Now I'm finally going to get to convert this Torrential. And we're going to draw. We pick up Book of Moon, and he's only at 1,000 life, so this is a perfect time to summon the DD and see if we can get through. And if he has the Mirror Force, I've got the book to save it and maintain my field presence. But he has the Heavy Storm set and a Regeki Break that he is unable to activate, so that gets through, and we end up winning. So ended up 2-1 on the day, second place. Had a lot of fun. Small event, but good group that we played with. Again, if you guys are interested in joining in on these tournaments, check out the link in the description and get on the GOAT Format Discord. All the tournaments are hosted through there. Great community that we're building here, and everybody will be really excited to have more players to talk about the game with and test decks. So make sure to join us in June with the new list. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.